I was raised up believing I was somehow unique, like a snowflake, distinct among snowflakes, unique in each way you can see. And now after some thinking, I'd say I'd rather be a functioning cog in some great machinery, serving something beyond me. But I don't know what that will be. I'll get back to you someday soon, you will see.
We sent out an email just to some friends to see if they were interested in helping us with the project, and we started meeting over at the warehouse, the SU warehouse, and the group shifted in form over the next couple of months, and people came on board, and the people we had on board had great ideas for people that they would ask to be writers or artists for the project. And so it was really a community effort to get the project together, which is really what I wanted to happen.
How did you select which writer pieces would go to which artists?
I did that sort of randomly. I thought that that might make for the best work. I find that in the creative process, the surprise and unexpectedness are kind of exciting. I think they make for good art, and so I just, for the most part, randomized the connections.
I like to explore different mediums. There's a very extensive, wonderful network of creative people and artists in the community. The piece that will be in the show, in the exhibition, is important because it expresses the kind of emotion symbolically. It's semi-abstract. It's called Stop, I'm Angry. And the forms show very sharp shapes within the gut and the stomach. The head is very tiny because we're not thinking, we're feeling. But then with the arms pushed out toward the viewer, I have 2 circles. And on those circles I have put mirrors. And those mirrors enlarge the title and excuse me, and the meaning of the piece, because now it becomes You Stop, I'm Angry. So that our anger comes from different places, and in the memory project it's frustration, illness, and it's how we deal with life. And at the time I did that, there was a lot of anger in my world. So that piece is pretty strong.
I wrote about the first patrol I went on when I was in the Army in Afghanistan. It was April 29th, 2008, and it was a rather large ambush that my patrol walked into or drove into, which resulted in the death of somebody I knew, the injury of several others. Somebody else I knew lost his mind, and it changed my life in a lot of ways. And it was followed over the course of that year I was in Afghanistan by many other similar moments, and so the significance was lost on me at the time. And after I left the Army and got into writing, this was something that I spent a lot of time thinking about. And through writing about this moment, both on my own and for this project, it really helped me process a lot of things that I hadn't processed when I wore that uniform, things that you kind of instinctively put away. So this project, in a way, was me revisiting that memory several times over the course of several weeks in order both to benefit the project and benefit myself. I saved some of my deployment money, and I went to school part-time for enjoyment's sake, not for a degree or anything. And I spent a lot of time volunteering out at this site, Patf for Veterans in Chittenango. And that turned into a full-time job that I do out here now, where I run the agricultural program and the culinary programs here, both of which are hobbies of mine. And I also get the opportunity and freedom to pursue a lot of my own interests as far as helping other veterans with their own ways and forms of healing. Things out here that I might have a personal interest in, but hopefully can invite other people who have an interest as well. And everybody kind of heals together. It's very therapeutic out here.
So Megan Holton is a friend of mine, and one night she came over for dinner and explained that Public Arts Task Force was doing this project, and she just told us a little bit about it and asked if we'd be interested in participating, and I thought it sounded really awesome. So my participation was to come up with a memory and then write out that memory sort of however it came to me once every few weeks for, I think it was about 4 months. Like, there wasn't like one thing that carried through. It was always, the memory was always about the same time, and I would just sort of, and each time that I rewrote the memory, I'd sort of bring in a new little piece that I just hadn't focused on the previous time that I had written about it. And then I think as a collection, each time that I wrote about the memory, it sort of like fills out the whole picture, sort of from different angles. The memory that I chose was from about 5 years ago when I was visiting Beijing, and it was actually not one specific event, but it was this sort of ongoing experience that I had over a couple weeks of riding through the city on a bicycle, on the back of my friend's bicycle actually. And my memory is about that experience itself, and then also the experience that I had then of a lot of the sights and sounds and smells being sort of seemingly familiar to me because I had lived in Beijing as a young child. So I was sort of writing about this experience of riding around the city, and then also about my memory of the city itself from when I had been young.
And I think about Laura, who you have spoken with, and I'm so curious as to what she would say would be the important pieces. But for us, it was a lot about nostalgia and a lot about sort of, for me, I thought a lot about, this is really weird, but I thought a lot about like the way we access old memories and how old they are and how we get to them, and how, you know, you kind of have to be like emotionally primed for accessing things that are like that deeply rooted. So I thought a lot about that, and Greg and I talked a lot about the feeling of trust and sort of the trust of a mother, because she mentions her mom, and the trust of her friend who's pedaling the bike. Some of the, you know, visual motifs, obviously with like the bicycles and the motion and the muscles moving on the pedals, and steam and metal pans and dirty streets and concrete, and sort of the things that were just so richly described in her writing. That was really fun for us. And just sort of one of the lines that really struck me about her piece was she talked about how the gray of the city changed colors when you left sort of the hustle and bustle of central Beijing and accessed some of the older neighborhoods, which are called hutongs. I think that's how you say that. And how they kind of went from like a colder, grayer feeling to sort of a warmer blue, or a warmer, redder gray. And so that was really fun for us to experiment with, the use of color, the way props were, the emotions in the scene, and it was fun. So we ended up deciding to shoot a large portion of it in Chinatown, which is fascinating. I mean, mostly we wanted it for the text because the memory's set in Beijing. I don't know if I mentioned that already. So we liked the idea of having, you know, the Mandarin text and the lettering, and well, so obviously I do not have the experience of having ever been to China, let alone Beijing, but I do personally have this experience of spending several years of my life in New York City. So it was really exciting to me to get to sort of where Laura's memory felt like it was sort of like I said a love song earlier, like a love song to Beijing, sort of about why the city is beautiful. Greg and mine sort of became that for New York City because we both lived there and both really appreciated it. So we got to sort of explore some of the emotions that we have. So it's going to be a fascinating thing where we're trying to create an emotion that we read in someone else's work, but also simultaneously add our own feelings.
So the memory that I received was, I felt very heavy and complex, and I felt excited about the idea of interpreting it, but I also felt scared. I thought it was incredibly deep and heavy and complex, and there were a lot of different ways that I could have interpreted it. Immediately I had about 1,000 ideas running through my head, but I was really interested in looking at it from the perspective of the woman. It was all about her struggle, her belief, her embarrassment, her frustration, her elation, her excitement. I thought of how many feelings must have been occurring from the other side as well. So there are two pieces, but they work as one. It's a diptych. And I had a model sit for me, and I had her kind of, she was an incredible model. I'm so appreciative of her. She kind of went through the whole process of what it may have felt like for this woman. Obviously, we don't know. We don't have her memory. But she did a number of different poses for me in a church that was empty. And one that I really loved was where she had her eyes downcast, almost closed, and a hand to her chest. And so one is of that moment where this woman is deciding whether she wants to stand or not, and the other is of this woman standing in worship with her hands kind of raised and her face slightly tilted upwards, receiving this kind of direction from the Holy Spirit. I wanted to cloak her identity. I wanted her to be a person that could be the vessel for this, not necessarily having an identity that you were looking at like, oh, this woman has blonde hair, straight hair, she's white, she's black, she's old, she's young. I wanted it to be a little bit more abstract than that. And so I chose to do something that was lit from the back through a stained glass window, and that she was standing there kind of receiving this, and the part I haven't finished yet would be the stained glass. I think that I'm going to kind of render a stained glass piece where from another church where God is speaking to a saint or an angel is delivering news to someone. So kind of translating that same piece that's in the narrative into the drawing. But another idea I have is to actually trace the woman's handwriting onto that stained glass, so that you have this narrative that you can kind of read and sort of understand. She has beautiful handwriting, this woman, and she's writing very loosely. So I wanted to copy it and to deliver this kind of text from a piece of her writing.
The memory I was given was a story of a group of friends who went swimming when they were in Panama, and basically they got out there and realized that the current was so strong that it was pulling them out to sea. So they realized they couldn't swim back to land, and kind of panicked. And then at the last minute kind of found a sandbar actually that they could touch, and were able to get themselves back to shore. I highlighted some things. There was a lot of stuff about thinking about life ending, basically. Praying, take care of my mom and family. This person was having these last thoughts of, this might be the end. And then the one thought that kept standing out to me, though, was in each version of this memory written was the fact that at the last minute his feet touched the ground when he was out in the ocean, and was able to save himself. So it was kind of this escaping death theme that I kept coming across. When I read this and I had that thought about escaping death, it kind of brought up some things for me as far as emotional issues with depression, and just dealing with that. And what I found was, I kept thinking about how grateful I am that I worked through some depression and came out on the other side thankful that I had gotten help. So I think I kept getting this image of a noose because of how this person swimming almost was really taken down by death, and how the idea of death at one time sounded better to me than life. And so my image is very basic: a rope and a noose. And kind of saying, yeah, that's not for me.
I'm going to be excited to see how people react to it. I think the most common reaction would be that they are able to understand how the art works in some way with the piece, that they have some that they've made some association between the writing and the art in any way that they are able to. And so I think those reactions will all be really varied. I think that I would want someone to come away from it thinking about their memory and how really thinking about a memory over a period of time, because we all do that. We have memories from childhood that stay with us and they evolve. To start to think about that as a piece of art itself.
I know